Welcome, Olivia. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this interview with me.
Yeah, of course.
What made you want to go ahead and say yes to do this interview when I messaged you and was like, hey, I have an idea of starting this thing called the Dreamers Podcast? What made you want to be like, I want to go ahead and tell my story?
Well, one, I think it's a really cool idea what you're doing. I think putting a face to us is great because a lot of us have friends, families, coworkers that may not know about our situation and maybe have these biased opinions about these kids and have no clue that they're real people with real lives that have friends and family and kids now. And um, so I think it's cool to put a face to us. And then also in the past, when I've decided to just upload snippets about my life or talking, like I think the last time I did it was in 2020 when he was running again. I decided to share something about it. And I got a lot of good feedback because there was a lot of people that knew me but had no clue that this was my experience and this is what I was going through. Um, And I've even had some people reach out to me this year and telling me that they voted differently because of my story. And I've had some people tell me that because of me, they're more open to the idea of not necessarily mass deportations, but like having some sort of pathway. So I think I've just been able to open up the eyes of some people. And for me, that's a win. It may not be everybody, but I think it's a win that some people at least get some knowledge about what our situations are like.
Yes, that is so true. Yes, because a lot of people like they see us like even me. I just got this other day. Yeah, people were like, "Oh, I didn't know you were a dreamer."
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, like they don't expect it. They don't see, yeah, because they just see us, and I feel like they also like kind of maybe have like a stereotype of the person that may look like a dreamer,
Hmm.
and it's like no, like I've been here, since the girl from yesterday was here since she was 2.
Yeah, me too. I've been here since I was 12.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and she said she got DACA when she was 16, and it's like they're shocked to find out that there isn't a way to citizenship. I think in their head they think like it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, why haven't you gotten anything? Why aren't you a citizen? And it's like, because it's not that easy.
No, it's a very broken system and they make it very difficult for us. Like I had to buy a new car a year ago. And I remember when I was signing the paperwork so that I could take the car with me, the guy that was filling out the paperwork for me noticed that my um, information said like non-legal citizen, and he asked me about it. And I explained what DACA was, and he asked me like, why don't you just apply for citizenship? And I explained to him like it's not that simple. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, you need someone to petition for you, and it needs to be someone that's either related to you, and then depending on who the relative is, it depends on how long it can take. And he was
Right.
like, well, what's the easiest option for you? And at the time, I wasn't married yet. And I told him I'd either need to marry a US citizen, or at this point, I need to wait for my son to turn 21 so that he can petition for me. That would be the fastest route if I don't get married,
Yeah.
or have someone that can help me. And he was like, I had no clue that that's how it worked. And I'm like, and that's just like the very
Mhm.
summarized version of it. I'm like, if I really
Yeah.
sat and explained all the details of like how each one works and how certain petitioners can take 20 years and others can take 6 months, I'm like, it's crazy. And he's like, I honestly thought it was just you go online and you apply and people just didn't want to do that. I'm like, I wish it was that easy. If
Oh
it
my
was that
God, please.
all of us would do that. Like, no one
Right?
wouldn't do it if it was as simple as just logging into uscis.gov
Right.
and just guaranteeing that we would have a green card. Like,
Right? It's like, oh,
so,
please.
yeah, and he
Let's
was shocked,
manifest that.
right,
Let's put
but
that out into the
I
universe.
had no clue it was like that, and I'm like, oh, I guess,
Yeah.
and I also realized I'm like, I can't believe people really think that that's all it is. It's just go
Right?
online. Why?
Yes, yes. And I feel like that's like the biggest thing that made me want to do this too, is because a lot of people don't know. They literally don't know. And and they don't know that we have to go through this process every 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
We have to pay the application fee. A lot of us still pay for a lawyer because I don't trust myself to fill out the papers, even though it's just copy and paste.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't trust myself. So a lot of us still pay the lawyer fee every 2 years. And
Mm-hmm.
then you got to get your fingerprints, the background check. So you have to still pass through these, you know, and it's not guaranteed.
No, there's always
So
that small percentage
what
that,
if?
yeah.
And then the delays too. Have you heard of like all the delays that some people experienced like a year ago, that they were waiting for their stuff and they were like, it's taking like 6 months and I haven't gotten mine yet.
Yeah, that I actually experienced that this year and it
Oh my
was
God, you did it.
terrifying. It was I've done it myself. I've never hired a lawyer. My mom did it completely. I mean, but my mom is like, she was so scared when she first filled out my application. And she did this when I was 18 in 2012. And I remember my entire family were like looking at it and they were like, it seems like this is a good thing, but we're so scared to put all of your information out there and have no clue if this could backfire on us in the future. Like, it's supposed to give you a social security card and it's supposed to give you a work permit because at the time I had just graduated high school. I couldn't go to college because I couldn't apply for financial aid. So I'm like, I
Yes.
can't go to college. I couldn't work legally. I couldn't get a driver's license. And I was like, what am I going to do? Like at that point, I remember just being like, I have no clue what I'm going to do with my life. And that happened. And my mom did everything by herself, but she was like reading every possible detail on it because
Yes.
she didn't want to do anything wrong. And at the time,
Right?
we couldn't afford a lawyer. So she did everything herself. And this, I think, after I turned like 22, she was like, all right, you're going to be in charge of this stuff now. So I started doing it.
Yeah.
It was really nerve wracking, but I've always kept copies of my last application. So when the new, I mean, they have changed the applications a little bit in the last 4 years, I think, but it's kind of easy because since I have
Yeah.
everything already printed out, when I fill out my new one, it's just kind of the same. The papers haven't really changed much. Maybe like certain questions that they've asked you have changed, but not too much has changed. So it's been pretty straightforward. The only thing that changes for me every 2 years is the letter. I write them a letter.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah. Because they ask you, right, like a reason for why you want to.
so that's obviously changed since 2018 because I've since then have become a mother. Um, and I just had like different needs at the time. So I would just kind of
For
explain
sure.
them. And this year when I was doing it, I always did it 90 days before. I read
Yeah.
now that you're supposed to do it 120, but I always did it 90 and I
Yeah.
never, ever, ever had an issue. I would send it in and I
Right?
kid you not, within 4 weeks, maybe less, I would have my new green
Yes.
card in. Or not
True.
my new work permit.
Yes.
And um it was very, very fast. And this year I did it like I always do it. And I sent in my information. And one day I'm looking through my IDs and stuff, and I realized that it was going to expire in like a month. And I thought it expired in like 2 more months. And I'm like, oh,
Same here. Yeah.
I haven't heard anything. And
You're
I
like,
had
what's
that
going
on
on?
now, and I was checking it like I kid you not every single day. And it just kept saying that they were still actively working on my application and that they would get back to me when they could. And then it specifically said like, do not reach out to us unless you've been denied. Do not
Yes.
reach, but like it like you can't call them and ask
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
paper basically, or if your online profile says that they're still working on it. So I remember just being so, so scared because I'm like, this has never happened before and it's never expired. Like, what am I going to do if this expires? And I remember just all this fear. I'm like, I have this car. And they told me that they gave me such a big deal about giving me the payment plan for this car because of my work permit. And they were like, well, it
That is so
expired.
crazy. That is so crazy
Yeah,
that
they're
they
like,
did that.
expired in May, so we can't really give you this thing. And I'm like, I got my last car loan through you guys and you guys didn't give me a problem. And they were like, well, I don't know what the last person did, but they didn't do it right. So my dad ended up having to co-sign on the payment for me, which he didn't
Oh,
have to do for my last car. Like my
yeah.
last car, completely by myself, and this one for some reason they weren't letting me do it, so he had to help me. And I remember thinking, like, what if they take my car away? How am I going to take my son to school? Like, what am I going to do? Like, what like I was a nanny at the time, and I was like, what if I can't get another nanny position? Like, I just the
Your
fear.
mind just starts racing to all the what ifs.
Yeah, and it actually did end up expiring. And I was without something for, or without my work permit or like, and a driver's license for like, I want to say 2 or 3 months. And then
Stop
random,
it, really?
yeah. And then, and I honestly thought, like, if someone looks at my application now that it's expired and they see that it expired, will they deny me?
Oh my
Because
God.
so I was just scared, and I was praying
Yes.
all the time, and my whole family was scared for me, and
Yeah.
my husband was worried, and he was like, what are we gonna do? My husband's like, you're fine. Like, he's an American citizen, so he's like, as long as you're married to an American citizen. I'm like, that's not how it
Don't you worry.
works. And we were just scared. And
Yes.
one day, I think it was in July, I got an email that I had mail from them coming in, and I went to my account and it said that I was approved, and I was
Oh
like,
my
oh,
God. Yes. You were like, thank you.
good
Yeah.
years, but it was the most nerve-wracking. I'm turning red just talking about it because I'm like,
Right. You're just like, ah.
scary.
Right.
Like, I had
Yes.
never experienced that before. And then after that happened, that's when I read online that, like, it's almost like they're doing it on purpose. So it's like now they're saying you should apply for it 6 months in advance.
Oh my God, I know. I'm seeing all of that. And I'm just like, I went to check when mine expires because I just got it a year ago. And I was like, no, I just got it this year. So I was like, oh my God, mine doesn't expire till 2026. I'm like,
Yeah, mine doesn't either, but in my head, I'm like, I am never letting that happen again. I'm going to reapply 6 months early. But now, with who's coming into office, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to reapply. So
oh my
I
God, right? Well,
look
talking on that, did you see his interview about his plans with
at
DACA?
snippets. I didn't watch the whole thing because honestly, it's nerve-wracking. And a lot of the snippets that I saw were on social media,
Yes.
but it's kind of scary because my situation specifically, I'm a dreamer with a child who is considered a US citizen because he was born here. And
Right.
I'm married to a white American who also has a young son from a previous relationship. So we're kind of like mixed together.
Yeah.
And based off of what Trump is saying, I'm like, if they like he's saying like he wants to not separate families, so he plans to deport everybody. But I'm like, in my specific situation, what's going to happen to me because of what he's saying he's going to do? The Mexican president, which I love everything she's saying, but
Oh
she's also
my. Yes.
cut off ties to Americans and potentially deport Americans. So then I'm like, what am I going to do if she doesn't let Americans into the country, and my family, like me and my husband and my 2 kids, decide
Oh,
to move?
true.
Now we can't move, or we're going to have to be separated because he's not allowed in Mexico because of
Oh
what's
my.
going on with him. So now I'm like,
You're like,
he's so not worried about it, but I'm
that,
like, no, if you're even going to be allowed in. And like,
right?
I'm kind of right now, me and him have discussed getting dual citizenship for my son just in case, so that at least
Oh, yes. Uh-huh.
has like Mexican rights in Mexico and is able to be there if he needed to be there, because that's, I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but it's scary. And the thing he said about taking away birthright citizenship, I thought, honestly, when I heard that, I'm like, that's an insane amount of people to take citizen. Like, one, my son falls into that category.
Yeah.
I have cousins that came from my aunts and uncles that were immigrants that are citizens because of birthright citizenship. But I was thinking about it this morning when I was thinking about like what you might ask me, and I was like, Trump's own son is
That's what
a
everybody's
citizen
saying.
of birthright citizenship.
Right?
I'm like, Melania's child is only a
Mhm.
citizen because of the birthright citizenship. I'm like, does he
Yeah.
not? what he's thinking about taking away and who that would, I mean, obviously he'd probably pardon his child, but
For sure, for sure.
the rest of us are in the same situation.
Right? It just makes no sense. Because like in that interview, he said he wants to take birthright citizenship, but then he's very hopeful about helping all the dreamers because he even said it himself. All the dreamers have been here since children. All of them are now in their mid, 30s, 40s, and they have families. And it's like, okay, but you're like going back on what you're saying. Because how is it that you want to take away birthright citizenship, but then you want to do something for dreamers?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
it's
don't
not making
I
any
I feel
sense.
like realistically it's going to be very hard for him to take away the birthright citizenship.
Right? Yes.
You have to change amendments, and I feel like that's
Right? Yeah, that's what they were saying. They're saying it's in the Constitution.
yeah, so I don't really see that happening. I could see him pushing it and maybe trying, but I just don't think, I mean, no president has ever done that. So I'm like, I feel like if he did do that and we find out that you can just change the Constitution,
Right.
that's kind of alarming moving forward. Like, what else,
Literally, yeah.
you know? So I don't think that's going to be something he can take away. I could see him trying, just like he tried to do with DACA. And when he said that he was going to try to help dreamers, I mean, I was floored when I saw,
Yes.
you just tried to get rid of this program a few years ago. And like, you were adamant about it. Like, you were
Right?
adamant about getting rid of this program.
Yes.
And you didn't get rid of it because they told you that the way you went about it was illegal. And that's the only reason you weren't able to get rid of it. But he did stop new people from being able to get it.
Yes.
So I'm,
Yes. Isn't that insane that even till now that's still there?
yeah, they can't, no one can reapply or apply newly, which is also why it's scary that if yours expires, you're now considered a new applicant. So there a
No,
lot of,
shut up. Really?
mm-hmm.
Really? Really?
Yeah. So that's why I follow a lot of immigration lawyers on social media, and a lot of them are always like,
Yes.
do not let it expire because you may have to reapply. And if you reapply, you are now considered a new applicant. So when I found that
That is
out,
a
that's why,
great point. Oh my God, you guys, listen to this part. Listen to this.
yeah,
Don't
that
let your DACA expire.
don't, don't. I
Oh
mean,
my God.
reapply 6 months in advance if you have to,
Yeah.
but don't let it expire. I honestly thought they were going to email me and tell me that I had to reapply, but maybe because I
Yes.
applied 3 months before it expired, maybe that's why there was some,
Because
I don't,
they got it in.
I mean, I was praying. I'm a Christian, so I spent a lot of time
My
begging
God.
God, like, please give me an angel that looks at my
Right?
application.
You're like, let me go to church, light up a candle.
Yeah, I was like, please, 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 please put your hand over my application and like don't let
Right?
anything happen to me. I'm like, what am I gonna do? Like I can't. It was scary, but yeah, that's what they say. If it expires, you're considered a new applicant, and since they're not taking new applicants,
That right
you can't
there
get it.
was,
So I suggest I'm moving forward. If this program
yes.
stays in place and they don't do anything for Dreamers, my plan is to send in my application 6 months in advance just to be
Girl,
extra.
I'm literally writing that down because I
Yeah.
will forget and I will
Yeah.
go back and look at it and I'll be like, oh my God, it's expiring in 3 months. And I'll be like
Yeah.
having to
I that's
rush it and
You
do
don't
it.
really think about it. You think you're like in your head, you're like, I'm good for 2 years. And then a
Yeah,
year flies by and it's like, wow. So
true.
I literally looked at my expiration date and I went into my Google Calendar and I was like set a reminder
Yeah.
for like months in advance and like like my reminder is going to remind me like a week or two before 6 months, and so I can just
Oh, smart.
send it
Isn't
in.
that so crazy that we need to be doing that?
Yeah, it is crazy. It's
Like
sad.
all the extra little steps, and I feel like it literally consumes your life almost.
Yeah.
Like
I think
even though it
especially
says,
if you
"Oh,
know
you're
that
good for
the
two
expiration
years."
is coming up, like
Yeah.
oh, this is the year. Or if you're just a forgetful person, like if you have ADHD
Oh
and
my
you
God,
can't remember anything, or you lost the little stick-it note where it said that your thing, like it's a lot.
it
And they're not
is.
really good at they're not going to send you reminders, you know, they're not, hey, just so you know, like, no, they're not going
Right.
to. So
It's time to reapply.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's not.
no. Oh my God, wouldn't that be amazing?
That would be really nice if they sent us
Right?
letters, but no.
USCIS.
I know.
Start something new.
Send,
Send
send us
reminders
a
out.
mail.
That'll be amazing. You're helping out a lot of us who are
So many.
forgetful.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Okay. Um, do you remember your story of when you came here when you were little? You said you were two, so you probably don't remember.
I
Or
don't
have you heard the
remember.
story?
Yeah, I've definitely had conversations with my parents about it. We were living in Mexico. My family's from Morelia, and they had only been married, Morelia, Michoacan. They had only been married for a couple of years, and my parents had finished Bible school, so they were wanting to be pastors. And once they got married and had me, they opened up this little Christian bookstore. And I don't remember why or what the situation was. I don't remember if it was them or if it was somebody else that was working with them, but there was like a huge shipment of books that they either got and couldn't sell or got and couldn't afford to pay back. It was like something like that. And my family, my parents did not have money at all. Like they were really bad off when they first got married. I mean, my dad was a really hard worker, but like at the time he just wasn't making a lot of money, and now he had mouths to feed, and then my mom
Yeah.
was pregnant. Um, so I think because of that financial situation that came up, they decided my mom's older sister lived in North Carolina. So they were like, why don't you just come here for a little bit, make some money, and then, take that money back and then just pay off your debt or whatever. And that was the plan. So my parents came with visas. We all came with visas. We all came here legally, had permission to be here. I was under the age of, uh, I was a minor, I guess, but I think because I was like under the age of 5 or 6, um, the lawyers that we talked to told my parents that like I was covered by my parents because of how young I was. Um, and apparently, whoever checked us off at the border, like there's like no documentation of me coming into the country. So it was like my parents did, but they just kind of looked at me and they were like, okay, you're good. And like, so there's no
Yeah.
documentation of me entering. On paper, it looks like I was born in Morelia and then randomly got enrolled into school in North Carolina when I was 5. Like, there's
God.
no like
Yeah.
paper trail of how I got here or how
Yeah.
any of that. Um, so we all came here, and the only thing I don't know is why they ended up deciding to stay. But they decided to stay. Obviously, their visas expired. Um, my dad spoke zero English. So my mom had family here. So she had more money than my dad did. So she would travel to the United States and she took classes for English. So she knew English.
Oh.
Um, so she was actually at my dad's interview for the company that he actually still works at to this day.
Oh my God.
Um, he couldn't speak any English, so she had to be there and translate for him. And me
Oh.
and her were at the interview running around, and the owner of the company looked at my dad and was like, "You clearly need this job. Like you have a family to feed.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to learn English. You're gonna have to learn the trade." And he was like, "Okay." So they came, and we've been here since then. Um, so I don't remember too much, obviously, because I was 2. So I don't remember what
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
when we first came here. I don't remember
Yeah.
there being much of a culture shock or anything like that.
Right.
My parents said that my first language was obviously Spanish. They said that I was talking so much at that age, and learning English wasn't too hard for me because we were going to church here. And I think they got me like books and they were putting the TV on for me and like different things for me to learn. So they said for me, picking up the language wasn't really, really hard. And to this point, English is definitely my stronger language. I'm fluent in Spanish,
Right.
but I sometimes maybe don't conjugate things very well sometimes. Like I'm
Same.
definitely not a no sabo kid, but
Right.
some
You're like,
and then like when my
I
family
need.
comes to visit, oh, you're talking like so fast, or I don't understand certain jokes. I'm like, I didn't get it.
Oh my God. Yes. Same here.
But
Yes.
I can speak like fully. I can speak to my aunts and uncles and my grandma who doesn't speak English, so like I'm able to converse with them. But that was why we came. I wish I could answer why we stayed. But I know had my parents known all of this was going to happen, I guarantee they would have gone back a long time ago.
Yeah.
Um, because now I'm the only person in my family of four, like the family I came from. I'm the only person that doesn't have anything. Since my sister was born here, she obviously got birthright citizenship, so she's a citizen. And then when she turned 21, she petitioned for my parents, and they got their green cards within 6 months. So they've been traveling. They're actually now my parents are at the point where this year they could apply for citizenship. They've been residents for 5 years, so
And then they can petition you.
they could, yeah, they could petition me,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
or my husband could petition me too. But it's just
True.
expensive.
True. True.
It's just
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
point.
That's true.
And I
Yeah.
think my husband would actually be faster. Well, no, actually, well, I don't think my parents can petition for me because I'm over the age of 18.
You know what? I feel like that's also like another thing. Like, there's so much like misinformation. Like, like I've heard that your kids can petition for you, but then I've tried it, and they're like, no, it's not that strong of a case. It's gonna get denied. And then they're like, if your mother petitions you, if she's a citizen, then that will be a stronger case. So then it's like, so which one is it?
I don't know. My
Right?
mom, I think 2 years after we came here, she has several siblings. Both of my parents have a lot of siblings, but my mom had two sisters that lived in North Carolina. The one that kind of took us in after like a year or two moved to Texas. And then her older sister, or oldest sister, was also living in North Carolina, and she was married to an African who became a citizen. Like I don't know how he did it, but he was a citizen. And then because he married her, he became a citizen. And because of that, I think a couple of years after we moved here, my mom decided to put in an application with her older sister. But
Um,
sibling applications or petitions can take up to 20 years. So we were kind of like, even with that, like her doing that, we would have had to have waited for my mom to get her green card through her sister, and then she could apply for my dad, and then they could apply for me. But like, if you look at the time frame of all that, I'd be 40 years old. Like, well, now, really now, like
true.
30 years old, buying
Girl.
something, and I've been here since I was two. And the other thing that people don't understand is when you put in an application like my mom did, there's no protection for you. You're just
Oh
in
yeah.
the waiting game of, will they take my case? Will they not take my case? And I know for a fact it can take up to 20 years to hear from them. And it really did take almost 20 years because when my sister turned 21, I mean, as soon as she turned 21, my parents went straight to that. They did do a lawyer because there was
Yeah.
more info that they needed. As soon as my sister turned 21, they went straight to a lawyer and they had them fill out all the paperwork. And I think they paid like 10 grand between the two of them for everything. That's a lot of money
See,
between
and
the
that's like another thing. Like, it's expensive.
expensive. They paid like $10,000 for the two of them to get their green cards through my sister. And that process, I don't know why, the getting it through my sister took them 6 months. I mean, literally 6 months. They sent in their application, and
Yes.
within 6 months, they both got their green card in the mail. Um, and
Congratulations to
after,
them.
yeah, it was great for them. I was really happy for them. And then after they got that, I want to say like a year later, maybe a few months after my mom got her green card, she got a letter in the mail from USCIS saying that they were now going to look into her application that she had started 20 years ago with her sister.
Oh my God.
To show how long that process can take.
Mm.
So
Oh,
she was like, I don't need this anymore, but thank you for getting back to me.
thank you.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh my God. That is so insane.
My sister couldn't help me. Like, I could have done the same thing with my sister, but she couldn't do anything until she was 21. And then
Oh,
even in the same boat, like I could have filed an application with my sister, but I'd be sitting here just waiting, not knowing when I'm going to hear from them about that. So that's why I said at the beginning, like, depending on who files that application with you,
right.
it can vary from 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years to 20 years, which is
True.
insane. That is literally, and
It's like you
clearly they
just,
can process these things quickly because my
right? True.
got paperwork within 6 months through my sister, but for some reason
Right.
I don't know how that system works. Like where are they
right?
putting these applications that they can get to them 20
Faster,
years?
huh?
Like that doesn't make any sense to me. But yeah, but now that I'm pretty sure the lawyer that, because I went with my parents when they were talking to a lawyer to find out if there was anything I could do. He told me, as of right now, you're over the age of 18, so your parents can't help you. And your sister, it could take up to 20 years. So they were like, the quickest route for you, and I think at the time I'd already had my son or I was pregnant with my son. They told me when your child turns 21, they could petition for you, and it would be a very fast process. Or if you married a US citizen, then that would be a fast process. But they were like, but you need to make sure that it's an actual relationship because they're going to
Oh yeah, it's
interview
gonna
the
be.
crap out of you
Yes.
to know that your marriage is real and it's
Yeah.
not just for a green card. So I was like, okay. I mean, obviously I've never been one. I actually know people who have done that
Yeah.
and ended up falling in love, and I'm like, I love that for you, but I don't know how you
Yeah.
went through
I feel like it would be so
one.
scary.
So like I'd rather get married for love, I don't want to get married because I'm desperate.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because your back
It's
is up against the wall and you're just like, this is my only option. And I feel at that point, I feel like it would just get questioned. It would just get like
And
they
they
would
also
see right
question
through
how
it.
fast you petition, because me and my husband, we got married this year at the end of May. And we could have petitioned right away, but we also saw that like if you petition right away, they're gonna think of that as like a red flag, like why you petitioned right after you got married. Um, so we didn't do that because you have like apparently it's kind of like a red flag for them that they notice that you got married and right after that you put a lawyer told us, given our, because we went to a lawyer, we've been together for 7 years, me and my husband, and he's the father
Okay.
of my child, but we have been like on and off and just like a whole thing. But when we first got engaged in 2018, I had just found out I was pregnant, and I went and talked to them, and they were like, can you prove your relationship? And I was like, well, we've known each other since 2009. You can see
Yeah.
pictures of us in our yearbooks, because we met in high school.
Okay.
Now, we've been friends for a long time, like our relation. And then I was like, I'm also pregnant. And they're like, oh, the baby is great. And I was like, the baby? And they're
They're
like,
like, yes,
yeah,
you
you have a
lucked
child
him in.
together. They'll just assume like, okay, this
Yeah.
is great. They're like, yeah. So, and given my situation, they're like, since you have a child together, if you wanted to get married tomorrow and come in on Monday and uh, file your petition, like
Yeah.
you can easily prove your relationship is real. But even though it's the same person that I married,
Yeah.
I told him, given that my paperwork had expired, and we had gotten married, and how fast I would have been, like I was like, I don't want them to raise any red flags or like kind of bookmark me as somebody to keep an eye
Right. Like
on our
put some
relationship.
doubt
Like
in it. Yeah.
I have 7 years worth of pictures and videos and like of us together, and we have a whole child together.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can easily prove my
Right.
relationship. But for me, like just that little ounce of like, you can't do it right away kind of scared me. So I was just kind of waiting. I was married and waiting, hoping that my DACA would come through. And it did come through. So now I'm like, feel like I can breathe for at least
Yes.
2 years. But
Yes.
then Trump got elected, and I was like, ugh, I don't even know if DACA means anything anymore.
So true. Yes. Um, with growing up being undocumented, when did you find out, or did you always know that you were, like you didn't have what, like when you were in high school, like did you know, like, oh, I can't go get a driver's license with my friends,
I think
or
my
were you?
had a conversation with me in elementary school. And I don't remember if it was because I asked them something, but I think it was honestly during the time that you start taking end of grade testing in elementary school when you hit third grade and you start taking those end of grade. They ask you a bunch of questions about your last name, because I remember my last name wouldn't fit, because I had two last names.
The little squares.
Then it would ask you like who you are, like if you're American or like white, Native American,
Oh
black,
yeah.
Hispanic, like those kinds of things. And I remember like I think before I had to take those tests, my mom was like, "Hey, you're going to be taking these tests. They might ask you certain questions." Um, make sure you answer honestly. Like, make sure you put that you're Hispanic. If it asks you any questions about being undocumented, and I was like, what? I was
Like, what is
like
that?
8 years old, I think, in the third grade, maybe nine. Um, and I was like, what do you mean? So I remember her having a conversation with me, like, like, if you don't know what a paperwork is asking you, don't fill it out. Like, I think she was scared that they
Oh,
were gonna try to get me to say that I'm undocumented on paper and then it would like cause a problem for them. So she's like, if you don't know what something is, don't fill it out. Like, tell them that you want to talk to me and I'll come to the school and figure out what it is. And obviously they never did that. They did ask. I think there was one time where I took some sort of exam and they asked, oh, because of this, I couldn't take an SAT because it
oh,
asked you certain questions about your document. I literally could not take an SAT. So I never took my SATs in high school because
really?
mm, because it asked me certain questions or asked me for like my social security number and I didn't have that. So I
I didn't know
did
that.
not take my SAT. I couldn't take my SAT. um so that's how I don't they had a conversation with me about it and they kind of were like, just don't talk about it. Like, if someone asks where you were born, don't talk about it. Don't like, if they start asking you a bunch of questions, like, don't answer it. And then, like, I remember when I was older, my parents used the term illegal. And I was like, I don't know what do you mean I'm illegal? Like, what does that mean? And then, like, I think as I got older, they obviously had more conversations with me about what that meant, what that looked like. I remember at some point when I was like maybe 10, ICE came to my dad's job and my dad had no clue that he was talking to an ICE officer. He literally was on the job site. They showed up. This random guy walked up to him, and my dad saw him kind of dressed different. I don't remember what he was wearing, but my dad was
Yeah.
like, that's not a guy that should be on a job site like this. And the guy walked up to my dad and was like, "Hey, how are you?" And he's like, "I'm good." And he's like, "Good." He's like, "Are you good?" He's like, "I'm good. Are you good?" And he's like, "Yeah, but are you like good?" And he's like, "I'm good." He's like, "Okay, have a good day." And they left. And some guy walks up to my dad and was like, that was ICE, right? And my dad was like, "What?" And he literally like probably turned pale and was like,
Yes.
"I had
He
no."
handled it like a pro.
Yeah, and I guess when the guy asked him, "Are you good?" He was asking like, "You got your papers?" And my dad was like, I'm good." And because he had no clue who he was talking to, he was so chill about it. Like,
Yeah.
and he later found out that that's who it was. And I think that was the first scary interaction that my parents had. And then I remember once I started driving and social media came up, I remember there were certain checkpoints where they were asking to see. At least I don't know if that's in every state, but in North Carolina, and I haven't seen them do that in a very long time, but I remember there was times where we'd be driving and there'd be cops that are stopping every single car asking to see your driver's license. And my mom didn't have one for a really long time, and my dad, I think they were able to have licenses until, I don't know, like 10 or 12 years ago. Like, it wasn't an issue for them to have a North Carolina.
Right.
And then North Carolina randomly decided to say, we're no longer giving driver's license to undocumented people. Um, so I don't remember exactly what my dad had to do. There was a period of time that I remember he wasn't driving and like his boss knew, but like they just didn't talk about it. Like,
Yeah.
they never had a conversation. So when my dad told them like, "Hey, my driver's license expired and I can't get a new one right now," he was like, "Okay." So he had someone drive to my dad's house every day, pick him up, and take him to work. So it was kind of like a no questions asked kind of thing.
Wow. I love that.
Because my dad was great. Like, honestly, I love my dad, and he was a really hard worker. And at this point, spoke full English. At this point, like, grew in his company. He went from somebody that didn't know anything about plumbing to a now foreman on big job sites, and he is the boss above a bunch of other people. So he's grown a lot. So I think because of that, and he knows that my dad is a respectful man that's never taken advantage of him, he was just kind of like,
I got you.
"I don't see anything. You
Right.
don't know, like, it was
Yeah.
kind of one of those, like, I'll protect you the best way that I can. It was
Yeah.
like an unspoken thing. Um,
That is
but I
amazing.
remember growing up and thinking like this is hard. And like when I was in high school, that's when my parents are like, you're not going to be able to get a driver's license when you're 16. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, and you're like, I think even at the time when I was, because I remember I had a job. I had a job. My first job was at Subway. They never questioned anything. They just paid me. There was no important document or work permit that I needed. And then I worked at a Boost Mobile, like a cell phone store.
Hmm.
And I did that for a few months. And then my parents had to pick me up and drop me off because I didn't have a license. And that was like super annoying for them. But I'm like, well, if you want me to have a job, I can't
Right? True.
do it. Um, but yeah, like I don't think I really realized how difficult my situation was until I was in high school and I realized I can't drive. Um, I can't really have a job with like a crazy schedule because my parents are the ones picking me up and dropping me off. Um, I can't take my SAT, so I'm like, where am I going to go to college? And then I remember at one point I wanted to go to beauty school. I was like, well, I don't need an SAT to go to beauty school, so I'm like, maybe I'll learn how to cut
Mhm.
hair
Yeah.
and do. I went, but it was so expensive, and I found out then that I couldn't apply for financial aid because I wasn't a citizen.
Yeah.
So I was like, I there's not much I can do. I can't go to an expensive school because I can't afford it. I
Yeah.
can't work to afford it. I can't
Yeah.
drive to my job to afford school. So I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, that was the first time where I was like, I remember graduating high school and I'm like, all my friends are going to college. Everyone's getting cars. Everyone's moving. Everyone's doing, and I can't do anything. And that's when I really started getting more irritated with the fact that these things were happening to me and I didn't do anything but be
Right.
brought here. Like
Yes.
that's when I was like starting to get irritated. I'm like, I didn't even make this decision for myself, but
Right.
I'm
Right.
seeing consequences for someone else's decision over my life.
Yeah.
And now I can't do anything. And I'm not even the one that decided to move to another country. Like
Right.
that's when I started getting really not mad. Like I've never been mad at my parents. I've definitely had conversations where I've been very frustrated because they're like,
Yeah.
you're fine. And I'm like, I'm not fine. Like, you lived
Right.
this, but I've been living this at this point longer than you have because
True.
you're now
Yes.
a resident and you've been
Yeah.
traveling, you visited the world and you went to Africa and you go to Mexico every 6 months. And I'm stuck here watching
Yes.
everything from afar, from Facebook, from a phone, like from FaceTime. That's the only way I can see these things is because I'm stuck here. And like my dad has always been very like, I understand. Like I understand. Like I get it. It's difficult. I lived it. And then when I told him one day like cuz he was like, I've lived this. I know what this is like. And I finally was like, you have, but at this point I've lived this longer than you have. Like I came here the same day you did. And I was in this situation up until you got your green card. And when you got your green card, I'm still in this situation.
Right.
It's
I'm
the
still
crappy
here.
thing is I
Yeah.
was the minor in the situation. I was the toddler that was brought here. And they were just like, I think my parents just felt really helpless because I'm like, there's literally nothing we can do for you. And had we known, my dad's always been like, had I known this was going to be your situation, I would have never brought you here, like ever. And I remember when my son turned 2, I looked at him and I'm like, this is a baby. Like, this is a baby. This is how old I was when I was brought here. I was a
Really,
little
right?
wobbly little toddler that like
Mm.
got into everything and still had a passy in his mouth. And I'm like, and why are they treating me like I was a criminal when I was brought here? I was this age. Like I was wearing
Right?
diapers. Like I was
Yes.
literally in
That is
diapers
such
getting my
a
butt
great
wiped by.
way.
And I'm like, I'm now being told by someone on the internet that I'm an illegal criminal and I'm bringing drugs and I'm gang related and I'm
Right?
age when I came here. And
Right?
now I'm 30. I just turned 30 in March and I'm like now I'm 30 years old and I am still in this situation. Like that is crazy to me that I've been in this country and in this situation for 28 years. And
Right?
DACA, I've had it since 2012. So 12 years. I've had DACA for 12 years.
How
And
did you feel when you heard about DACA? When you heard like, oh, Obama's gonna do this? Was there
relief.
like a sense,
It was
right?
like
Yes.
it was like relieving to know that there was things that I was going to be able to do, but it was also so alarming because we just didn't know, like, what if one day they get rid of this program and they have all of our information? They know where we live, they have our fingerprints, they have our addresses, they have all the previous places that we've worked and we've lived because we have to give
Yes.
that. And I'm like, and it's not like it's going to be hard to find us because we have to give them our updated address all the time so that they
Girl,
can.
yes.
So I'm
Yes. Like I just had to renew, and I was in the middle of moving, and the lawyer was like, you need to put on there, because there was like a month that I didn't have anything, and the lawyer was like, you need to explain that empty space. Like, where were you in that month? And I
yeah.
was like, oh, I was staying like at my mom's for like a week, and then I like stayed, at a friend's, and he was like, you need to put those addresses, you need to put the days you were staying there. Like, they want to know every single space in your life.
Hmm.
And I was like, that is so true. Like, they know everything about
Yeah,
us.
they do. So it was like, it was very, like, once I got it in hand, like the day that when my mom was applying, I remember my mom just praying all the time and she would cry and she would get so frustrated because she's like, I don't want to do anything wrong because we can't
Right?
afford a lawyer, but I don't want to pass up this if it will help you. Like if you can get a
Yes.
license and you can get a social security card and you can get a work permit, like only you can work, you can go to school, you
Yes.
can, and
Right? Right?
we don't want to pass this up because you need this in order to just be a human. But they were like, but we're also
Literally.
scared. And it was also costing money. Like whether we paid for a lawyer or not, $500, like sometimes people don't have an extra $500. Like some people live
Girl.
paycheck to paycheck
Yes.
and saving
Yeah.
$500 is
It's a
hard.
lot. Yeah.
So my parents were like just really nervous and I think that kind of fell on me like, oh, you're nervous, so I'm nervous and like I don't really know what to
Yes.
think.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but I remember the day I had actually started working at a gym. I was going to a gym for Zumba that year, and we were just like a summer thing that me, my mom, and my sister were doing. And I randomly asked the owner, and I'm like, "Hey, do you need help at the gym?" Because it was a kind of a new gym, and she was like, "Actually, we need a front desk person. Are you interested?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She was like, "You're not going to school?" And I'm like, "No, I can't. I can't go to school, so I would rather work."
Yeah.
And they had just put that e-verify thing into place where like you needed a social security number or a work permit in order to work, and that wasn't my experiences with my other jobs. So I got hired and I was working for a week, and then randomly the owner came up to me and he was like, "Hey, can I get your work permit from you? Because I need it for this e-verify stuff." And I'm like, "I don't have one." And he's like, "You don't?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "I don't know. I don't think I can keep you here." And he's like, and then he got frustrated. He was like, "I might have to pay you under the table for the like amount of time you did work." And he's like, "But I can't." So he was like, "Let me talk to some people." And he was like talking to his parents, um, who own businesses. And it was like, "What do I do? How do I help this girl?" And they're like, you can't help her. Like, I would pay her, just under the table and not even document that she worked there. But like, and I told him like, I'm applying for this thing right now, but I don't know anything yet. And he's like, "Well, you know something soon?" And I'm like, "No." And
Yeah.
thankfully, I want to say within a few days of having this conversation with him, my work permit came in the mail. And I was like, oh, so I gave it. He's like,
Yes.
"We're good. Okay, we're good. This is exactly
Yeah.
what I did." So like, I worked there for like a year, I think. I took a whole year off of school. Um, and I worked there for a year and I was like, I have a driver's license, so I could drive my parents' car to work,
Yeah.
but that became an issue because they needed their car and like it was just like a whole thing. But it was just like that was like my first thing, like, okay, it was like relieving. Okay, I can work,
Yes.
make money,
Right.
I can drive places now. I don't have to worry about getting pulled over and getting my license checked.
Oh,
Like
right. Yes.
I'm okay. And then a year later, I decided I wanted to go to Bible school. So I was able to apply to Bible school and go to school in New York. And I did that for 3 years. And I had a social
Ah,
security number. Like I had everything.
yeah.
So for me, it
How
was like,
exciting.
I finally do all the things that I should
Right?
do years ago. Like
Yeah. How
it
does
was,
that feel?
it was
Like
amazing.
being able, yeah.
It was
Like
amazing.
even getting something so simple as a driver's license for other people, It's
Yeah.
like
I
a
think
coming of
people
age thing,
take those for granted. I don't think
Yeah.
people have clue what they have unless they're put in a situation where they may not have it. So I think people just have privilege and they take that for granted that they're able to have all these things, and they don't really think about what life would be like without it because they know they're going to get it as soon as they turn 16. As soon as they turn 14, they can start
True.
driving
True.
at school, and
Yeah.
like ed, and like by 15 you have your permits, like all these things that like
Just come
undocumented people
naturally
can't
for
have.
others.
But we grew up here, so it's like kind of like in our mind, at least in my mind, I'm like, I'm just as American as everybody else because
Literally.
I
Yeah.
grew up like I don't remember anything from Mexico. I think I have little memories that like I remember like my grandma's kitchen, I remember a patio, I remember a park, like snippets, but that's it. Like
Yeah.
I was 2, so I
Right.
don't remember anything other than like flashes of like certain things. So I'm like,
Yeah.
my whole life has been here. I'm just as
Yeah.
American as the next person. I grew up
Literally.
here. I remember working, like when I started having to pay taxes, I filed taxes. And my parents taught me how to do that. My parents
Yeah.
have paid taxes the entire time that they've been here. It was different when we first moved here. It was like you needed a tax number, like a tax ID number.
Yeah.
That's how you pay taxes. But I mean, my
Yeah.
parents, since my dad
Oh,
had a job the
yeah.
first year, he's
Mm-hmm.
been paying taxes. And he also, like, once he became a resident, he talked to his boss because he's like, there was like 18 years that I paid for Social Security and all these other that I couldn't have. So
No.
he's like, is there any way we can work on me getting that money back? Because, and I don't know what ended up happening. I think his boss was trying to look into it to see if there was something that he could do. But I mean, like they take out money for so many things that
Yes.
immigrants don't get, like Social Security, like they take a chunk out of your paycheck if you're getting paid a paycheck
Yeah.
single week or however you do it.
Yeah.
And that's money you're never going to see.
Nope.
Never gonna, but
Mm-hmm.
it's taken out of your paycheck.
Yeah.
And we pay taxes on like everything that we buy at the grocery. Like we are
Right.
doing all the things that people claim we don't do. And that's very, I think I became angry about that in like from 2016 when he was running for president and I was hearing the things that he was saying. And I'm like, those are
Oh,
lies.
right.
We do pay taxes. We're not
Yeah.
criminals. Like and listen, I'm not someone that says don't get rid of the criminals. Like I strongly believe if there's
Yeah.
someone that's killing people, bringing drugs, like they have a
Oh,
right
for sure.
to
Right. Yeah.
absolutely remove them. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say fight you on that, but why
Yeah.
are you assuming that we're all doing that?
Exactly.
Like
Exactly. Yeah.
that's where I get really frustrated. And I'm like, wait a minute. I had to
Yes.
go through extensive background checks to get DACA. Like,
Literally.
what do you mean I'm a criminal? What do you mean I'm
Right.
a member? What do you mean I'm bringing drugs into this country? Like, I haven't left this country since I was 2. How am I
Yes.
doing
Yes.
anything in here?
Yeah. Girl. Yes. It's
So
like I need to get my fingerprints checked every 2 years.
every 2 years, I have to go. And that was the first time I went. I remember I was mortified going into
Yes.
the immigration building. I'm like, I didn't even know we had one of these. And I went with my aunt
Right.
who was she had a green card at that point. She married an American, and I went with her. And I was like, because my parents were like undocumented, so they didn't want to go with me,
Oh.
but they didn't want me to go alone. So my aunt went with me, and it was simple. Like I went in, I went through security, they went back, I waited in line, then they finally called me up, and I scanned my fingers in all sorts of random places. They took,
Right.
and I want to say like a couple of weeks later, or yeah, like a couple of weeks later, they were like, "You've been approved." And like a week after that, I got my green card, and I'm like, oh, because I mean, I've never done anything, and because of that, my parents always grew up like telling us like what you do now will benefit you in the future when
Yes.
you decide
Yes.
to get your when we can apply for a green card. So they were like, you will pay taxes. Do not get a speeding ticket. Do not break the law. Do not do anything. So I remember from a young age, like my friends, like my Hispanic friends who I knew were undocumented, they're like, let's skip school. And I'm like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
They're like, let's go get high. No, thank you. I'm like, let's go get
Yeah.
drunk. Not me.
Right. You gotta always be on your best
Not to have
behavior.
my record that I was caught smoking weed or like drinking when I'm underage and skip
Right. Yeah.
you. I have more hopes and dreams. Like I have a
Right.
future.
Yeah. Literally, yeah.
And that was because my parents ingrained that to me from a very young age. So it's like even now when I had my son, they were offering me like Medicaid and I'm like, I can't have Medicaid. And they're like, yes, you can. And I'm like, I'm not a citizen. And they're like, oh, no, you can't. And I'm like, so I was always the one being super careful, like, don't give me anything that will keep me from getting a green card later on because
You
if
know
I
what? That is so true.
help,
Yes.
they're not going to help me. And that's another thing that people assume about immigrants is that we get food stamps and we have Medicaid and they're paying for all our stuff and we have a bunch of kids and they're just paying for our kids. And I'm like, that is
No.
how it works. Like you have to be a citizen to benefit from the government aid. And
Literally.
that's, we're not
It's like
benefiting.
we're paying into it. We're
Right.
paying into it, but we
Every
can't use
year,
it. No.
every single year, but we don't
Mhm.
get, like, if we need help financially, we better haul butt and work
Yeah.
hard to get
Literally. Pick up
me.
an extra shift, get
Right.
another job, but
Right.
no.
That's it. That's all we can do. Like, we don't get
Yeah.
to apply and say, hey, I can't afford to feed my kids this month. Can you help me?
Right.
We don't have,
Literally.
you better go somewhere where they're giving out free meals or something. Cause that's what we
Yeah.
have to do.
Hmm.
Like,
Yes.
that was the
Yeah.
only, my parents never got a paycheck. The only thing that they got help with was their tax return. When they like filed taxes, their tax return, once
Yeah.
they had dependents and everything, those things helped. But I remember my parents would use that money to like pay some backed up bills or like maybe when we bought a house there was like certain things in the house that needed to be fixed and they would put the money there.
Right.
It
Yeah.
wasn't like they were out here taking vacations and like we have all this money to spend. Like no, they
Right. Yeah.
pay off these different things and do these different things. And I'm like, I don't know why people have this misconception of us getting all this financial aid when we don't have that option at all.
Don't. Mhm.
At all.
We, nothing. No benefits.
None. But like you said,
Mm-mm.
we pay for it every single
We
year.
do. Yeah. Yeah. They say we contribute like what, 8 billion a
I
year?
saw like 9 billion, like
Nine
over 9
billion.
billion a year. Like it was either 9.4 or 9.6 billion a year in taxes from undocumented. Because they
That's
know that about us. Like if you're paying with
right.
a tax ID number, they know you're undocumented. So I'm like the
True.
fact
True.
that they keep track of the fact that we pay taxes and how much
Yes.
we contribute every single year is crazy because
It's
I
like,
don't.
what are you guys gonna do without those billions of dollars coming in?
Do you know
What's
it's
gonna
going to
happen?
cost like 9 billion a year? Not a year. It's going to cost like 9 billion dollars just to deport that many people.
Right? It's like,
It doesn't, the math doesn't make sense to me. Like when
yes.
I
It's like,
saw that,
sir.
help me understand how 2 plus 2 equals 4 because you are literally going to pay that much to get rid of us and at the same time lose that much a year. Because when we're not here, do you think we're going to keep paying taxes? No, we're not.
No.
Why?
No, sir.
We're also, I know none of us are going to pay, like if they want to deport us, I'm not paying for my flight. You pay for that. I'm not paying for my,
Yes. Yeah.
you pay for that. How are you going to feed me while I'm in this detention center? You
Oh
know what
my
I mean?
God.
They,
Yes. Did you hear about that?
that's,
About how like they're like getting land in Texas
yes.
for
And
these
it doesn't
detention
surprise me.
centers.
It literally does not surprise me because they were already doing that before. I just, I don't understand. That was also a scary time when I was seeing what was going on at the border and how they were separating kids from their parents. Like my son he just turned 6. Um, but we learned when he was 2 that he wasn't talking. Like he should have been talking and he wasn't talking. And we were starting to realize, like, you know what? He's not really saying anything other than like a few words. So we learned over the course of a few years, I think we finally got the official diagnosis like a year and a half ago that he has a speech disorder. So it's not a speech delay like we thought for so long. It's literally a speech disorder. And the best way that they described it to me is that it's like dyslexia, but for talking. So it's like with
Oh,
dyslexia, like the words get jumbled up and you can't read things correctly, or maybe letters get moved and you can't read accurately. So with what he has, it's called apraxia of speech. With apraxia, it's like he can hear what you're saying, but for some reason his brain won't make his mouth do the things that it needs to do in order to say what he wants to say. So when he wants to say a word, he has to focus really hard on like the movements of his mouth, the placement of his tongue in order to say something. So
Mm.
like it's not going to be impossible for him to talk. Like he's been talking more now. So like he says a lot of phrases, 2 to 3 word phrases. He's kind of in
Oh,
his
that's amazing. Little
stories.
by little.
Yeah, but when I saw all that stuff that was going on at the border and like mass deportations and getting rid of DACA, like my heart sank for my child because I'm like, how many kids don't don't speak English that are being separated from their mom? How are they conversing with people? How are they telling people? Like I think my heart as a mother just changed. I think it just made me angrier, to be honest. I've always was angry before I became
Yeah.
a mom, but once I became a mom, I'm like, these people are parents. They have kids that like you can't just take someone's child away from them. Like the trauma that these kids are experiencing. And like I think I heard that there was like pediatricians or like people that were like knowledgeable in like children's cries went to the border or went to these detention centers and like heard the kids that were crying and they just assumed like, oh, they're just hungry or whatever. And they're like, no, these kids are traumatized. Like these kids are experiencing like serious trauma. They want like this is like a scared cry. This isn't a hungry cry. This isn't a tantrum cry. This is like a fearful, I am scared cry. And I'm like, as a mom, I'm like, I just don't understand how you can justify this. Like, why? I'm not saying don't pay consequences for what you were doing, but like, why can't this little boy be with his mom? Like,
Right?
why did you have to separate them? Like, why are you,
Yes.
like, for me, it just reminded me so much of like the concentration camps that we learned about when we were in school and how they separate
Mhm.
kids here, young girls there, young boys there, men here, women there. And I'm like, why is that what we're doing? Like,
It's true.
why are we doing that to these kids? Why are we traumatizing these people for no reason? Like, if you're going to deport them anyway, why not just keep them? At least the kid will feel safe and the mom will
Yeah.
feel way less anxious knowing that her kid, like, I cannot imagine being
Like
put in that
I can
situation.
fathom that. Yeah.
No, I can't. And I feel terrible for the people that experience that. And if that's still going on right now, I'm so sad. I remember when I had my son, my husband was in a documentary when he was 13. He used to do go-kart racing and he was really, really good at it. So the Rock, like Dwayne the Rock Johnson was actually involved in the production for this documentary. I
Oh,
think he
cool.
found it or something. And his director, like they recorded his life for like a year, to talk about what he was doing and what it was like and his family dynamic and everything. And I met the director. He's now an Oscar-winning director, and I met
Wow.
him a few times when he's came to visit because he's a really humble guy. His name is Marshall Curry. He's really kind. Him and his wife are such kind people. And his wife reached out to my now husband and was like, "Hey, your wife or your girlfriend, I think I was like his fiance at the time, your fiance speaks Spanish, right? Would she be interested in doing some translating for us? Because I have a friend who's an immigration lawyer and she's helping someone that's at the border right now. Is there any way? But we can't converse with her because she doesn't speak English, but she wants to help her." She's like, "Would your fiance be willing to or translate?" So I was like, "Of course." So I would hop on a call with them every so often, anytime she needed to talk to her, and I would just sit there and translate what the lawyer was saying and what she was saying. And he was
Yeah.
like so scared. Like she was in a detention center and she's like, "I'm scared. It's cold. We don't like I asked her, I'm like, I thought because what they show you online is like there's all these bins of food and snacks and all this other stuff. And she's like, that none of that is free. We have to pay for all of that. And she's like, if you don't have money for a snack, because she's like, I mean, they feed us, but she's like, but
Yeah.
outside of like your regular meals, if you're still hungry and you want those snacks that you see in those containers on TV, she's like, you have to pay for those. And if you don't have someone sending you money, you don't have, it's kind of like a commissary in
Yes.
jail or in prison. It was kind of like that. And she's like, that extra clothes, those things, like you have to pay for all of that. She's like, there might be other centers where they are giving that stuff out, but she's like, but not here. And I was like, oh my God, like they're twisting things
Yeah.
in the news. Like they're making it seem like these people are like, oh, they're fine. They're taking like they have blankets, like they have these things. And she's like, it is not like that.
Much
It's not like that.
misinformation.
And she's like, the most comforting thing I have right now is like when I come talk on the phone. And I'm like, wow. So it was like hard, like that was even more of a time where I became really angry at the system because I'm like, I've never been in a situation like my parents when they came over here, they got on a flight from Morelia to I don't remember what state up at the border, and then they got in a car and they drove through the border. So it's not, and they were like
Yes.
through they like talked to ICE officers and everything at the border. So it's not like they weren't going through the desert. They weren't like, but I'm
Yeah.
like the people that did that, I'm just like, even though I've never been in that situation, I'm like, man, these people
Yeah.
could be little kids. And I'm like, I can't imagine having my little kid in this
Right?
situation, but I also can't imagine that there's much I wouldn't do for my
To
baby.
get this,
You know,
yeah.
like there's not much I wouldn't do for my son to make sure he has the life that he deserves or to make sure that he's
Right.
and fed. And like I can't imagine the people that like, because I'm sure the people that do that, they don't want to be in that situation.
Yeah.
They don't
No.
want to be
For
traveling
sure.
with they don't want to be traveling with the toddler. Like
For sure.
everyone who has kids knows that dealing with toddlers is difficult.
Yeah.
Imagine
Walking
going through
miles
the
and miles.
to go through waters and all of that with a baby on your back or a toddler like
Yeah.
who's hungry and it wants to eat certain things and is tired and doesn't want to walk and like maybe have to
Right.
your toy like, but I also as a
It's
parent I'm like I would
heartbreaking.
I needed to do to protect him and give
Yeah.
him the best life that he deserves. So I'm like I just feel horrible for the people in these situations and the detention centers and just it's heartbreaking. I feel like I don't know what and I can't offer a solution. I just wish there was a better solution to
Right.
what we have going on right now.
Yes. I hope that hopefully he's like, you know what, for like the people that have had DACA since 2012, like I hope he doesn't, I'm not like, give us citizenship right away. Like, give
Yeah.
us a residency.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
I can go through the naturalization process. I'm fine
Right?
with
Yeah.
waiting and doing it the way
Yeah.
that it's supposed to be done, but please give me a way to be able to get a green card.
Yes.
But please,
Yes.
like for me, it's like if I could have a conversation with him or if I could write him a letter that I knew he would read, I would try to speak to him like I am a person. Like I am
Yeah.
just like your children. You know what I mean? Like I am someone that has to provide for their child and has a family now. Like I am now a married woman with a husband and a stepson and a son of my own.
Yeah.
And this situation that like I'm dealing with, like I did not choose this for myself. Like I want people that make these decisions to understand that one detail of
Yes.
all of our lives, we are here not because we chose to be here, but
Exactly.
we're paying consequences like we did.
Yes.
And that's the hard part. But I'm like, can you please just look at us like the kids that we were when we came here? Because we're all adults now. We can't help
Yeah.
that we grew up, but we were toddlers when we came here. We were, I think, I don't even know what the cap is, but I'm like, we were all kids. You know, we were not,
Yes. Yeah.
we were either babies, toddlers, young kids, or young teenagers. And that's how old we
Yes.
were when we brought here. And like, when I look at my son now, I'm like, I make decisions over you. You know what I mean? Like every decision that I make and me and my husband make for him, it's hoping that it is the best decision for him. But we are the ones making these decisions for him. He has no choice
Yeah.
in what he, well, I mean, I guess what he wears, but like the clothes that
Yeah.
I buy, I choose that. You know what I mean? The shoes,
Right. Yes.
the clothes that I buy, the food that I feed him, the school that he goes to, like
Yes.
all of those things are decisions that I make. The doctor he goes to, which therapy he goes to for his speech, like all of those decisions me and my husband make for him, you know? And I'm like, my parent, that's what my parents did. They made a decision over my life, having zero clue what this was going to look like 28 years later, you know?
Literally.
And like,
Yes.
it's, I like, I just wish he could see that, like see that we were just kids. We were just little kids that were brought here. And now we're stuck in this situation where it's like, if we leave,
Right.
we,
It would uproot everything. It would
yeah,
just
what are we
change.
doing? And there are,
Yes.
I thankfully, like, I'm not, like, I know that there are some dreamers that don't have family where they're from. Like, they either don't know them or they're dead or,
Yeah.
like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, they don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah. So, like, where are they going to go? Who do they
Yeah.
have to rely on? You know what I mean? Not every
Right. Yeah.
has a safe family to go to. I thankfully in my situation, like if I ever got deported, I have plenty of family in Morelia and I have family in El DF, and I have family in different parts of Mexico, but I have
Okay.
like my dad's side of the family, like they're well off. They do well. They're doing good. They have places to live. Like they're like, hey, you have options of where you want to stay. Like you and your family
That's
can stay here,
amazing.
there, like, but not everyone has that.
True.
Like I
Yes.
even realized that. I'm like, I am scared and I have a place to go. And I have a
Right.
safe place to go. You know, like I have a safe family
Yeah.
that open their arms to me and help me get a job and get me all the attention that I need and like
Yeah.
everything that I could all the resources that I could possibly need, I would have. And I'm still scared because I'm like,
Right. Yes.
live
Yeah.
there. I've been living here my entire life. I have a
Right.
family now, and I'm like, I don't know what that would look like. But I'm like, my heart breaks for the people that don't have that, you know? Like, I'm sure that there are people that are like, man, if I just knew I had a family to go to.
Yeah. I feel like it would take off a big load off of their chest to be like, okay, like I'll be fine.
Yeah,
If tomorrow he's like, bye, like you get a letter that says, oh, you need to be out by this date. Like, okay, fine. Like, don't you worry, I'll be out of here. I got family, I'll be
yeah,
fine. But yeah, there's a lot of us that maybe don't have anybody to go to.
there, I'm sure, because
Have
I'm sure
anywhere to go.
a lot of people that came here because of dangerous situations,
That's true
they don't
too.
have anyone. Or, just family stupid stuff where like family stops talking to you because of a piece of land or something. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
just
my
petty
God, yes. Los terrenos.
kids because I'm like, my aunt's not talking to my mom anymore. So like, who am I going to go? Like, who's
Yeah,
going to
true.
if I leave? So I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I lived in fear for a really, really long, long, long time. And I feel like this is the first year where I was just like, you know what? I can't keep living in fear. Like if I get deported, that's going to be the journey for me. Like that's going to be my life and it is what it is. Like it's not planned, it's not what I wanted, but maybe I can make the best of it.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that I used to be scared of is like, how is that going to happen? Like, are they going to write you a letter? Are they going
Mhm.
to knock on your door and your son's at school and you got arrested and no
Oh
one
my
knows?
God.
You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
How are they going to do this? Like, are the last, like, I'm hoping in this situation that he wants to do, I'm hoping that his plan is to genuinely seek out criminals or drug traffickers or things like that and, like, kind of, I guess, priority. I'm really
Yeah.
hoping consumers are, like, on the bottom of the priority list because I'm like,
Yes.
know
Yeah.
for a fact we're not
Yeah.
criminals. You know for a
Yes.
fact there's not, like, you can't even have anything on your record that could keep you from getting reapproved?
Yes.
I'm like, we
Yes.
can't what? We can't do
No.
anything,
Yeah.
work
Nothing.
taxes
Yeah.
and come home. That's all we can do. Like,
Literally. Yeah.
because if we do anything, we have to report that.
Yes.
And there's a huge I don't know anyone who's been denied, but I'm sure that if you committed a crime, you'd probably get denied, you know?
Oh my God, girl. I got a speeding ticket and I was so scared for my life.
I bet. I
I was
bet.
like, oh my God. I was like, what do I need to do to fix this? Oh my
Yeah,
God. I took the driving lessons. I took like you have to do like a
of
what
course.
what is it like? Yeah, like a course, like a driving class, and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I need to do that, get it off my record as soon as possible, so it
Yeah.
doesn't show up on my DMV record. Because I
Yeah.
was just like, oh my God, so
Yeah, but
scary.
like, but that just goes to show how careful we are. The fact that a speeding ticket, and I'm
Literally,
not saying
can be like that can probably do it.
the fact
Yeah.
that a speeding ticket scares us enough to be like, oh my God, what if this is the end all be all for me because of the speeding ticket? Like that just goes to show that we're not out here doing anything dangerous. We're too scared.
Literally, yes, yes. Like, you see us driving slow.
That's why.
That's
Go
why.
no more than five above the speed limit. That is exactly
Literally, oh my God, yeah. Oh my
why.
God, yeah. Now, yeah, I'm like, you know what? I can't. Even though I was going to pick up my daughter from school, and I was like, you know what? That little girl can wait.
She's just have to be mad at me when I get there. Like it's
Right? Yes. But that's such a good point. Yeah, we need to be so always just more cautious.
hmm yeah, you have to
Yes.
be.
Literally. Okay. Next question. Um, so you said that you couldn't go to college
hmm
because you have DACA. A lot of DACA. Well, now in some states they offer help. Were you
Yes,
ever
I just
able
at the
to?
time when I was 18 and I was looking at to like I don't even remember what I wanted to be. I don't think I had dreams for what I wanted to be because I knew early on
Right.
I was
Yeah.
able to go.
Yeah.
So I don't even remember there was something that I specifically wanted to do. I just couldn't go to a regular university. And I
Yes.
community college was even like you need a social security number in order to
Sure.
get into school, and I didn't have that. I don't know what that's like now in 2024, but in 2012, when it was my time to like apply for things, I couldn't do anything without a social security number. And even if I could do something like beauty school, I needed help financially to pay for it. And that I could not do with
Yeah.
a social security number. Like I needed to be a citizen in order to receive any type of financial aid. Um, so once I got it, like once I got my DACA and got my work permit and my social security number, that's when I was able to finally apply for school. And that's when I was like, all right, now what do I want to do? And at the
Right.
time,
Like, what are my options?
involved with, yeah, I had a lot of options. But at the time, I was really, really involved with church. And I kind of just fell in love with like wanting to work with teenagers and like young kids. I was like, why don't I go to Bible school? So I did some
Oh,
research
yeah.
and
You went to New York.
yeah, I went to New York and I lived there for 3 years. At the time, they weren't a 4-year college yet. They are now. I don't really desire to go back to get my bachelor's. I studied for now because I'm not using it. But yeah, I got my associate's degree in youth ministry and I did what I wanted. And I was able to experience going to college and living at a dorm.
Yeah.
I was able to do, it wasn't really financial aid. They had this thing called work study where they
Oh,
gave
okay.
amount of money if you worked X amount of hours on the campus somehow. So that's what my family did. And my parents, um, thankfully, were able to pay for everything else. So, like, I did my part in working for some
Yeah.
of it. And then I would also work during the summer and save my money and, like, not really need to ask my parents for any money while I was there. But they paid for my tuition and my room and board and everything. So, thankfully, I graduated that kind of college with zero debt, thanks to my parents.
That's
Um,
cool.
and then my sister ended up going to the same school, so they ended up doing it twice for both of us.
Oh, how fun.
Um,
Nice.
so yeah, we did that, but it was hard in the beginning when I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But then DACA, because of DACA, I was able to go to college. And if I wanted to go to college now, I could go to college. I could go to a university if I wanted to study something. And I have thought about it, but I don't know. It's the this thing with what's going on now, it like scared me to the point before I decided I'm not going to be scared anymore. I was like, maybe I'll join the military.
You know what? Yes.
I
Yeah.
had
That's what
conver-
the girl was saying yesterday.
yeah, I seriously, I went through like I want just literally recently, like a few weeks ago, I was like, I am going to join the military. I'm about to be in a uniform, but then I was like, I talked to two friends of mine that are in the military, both women because they're um women, and I don't know what that experience is like and what boot
Right.
camp. One of them was in the army and the other one was in the Air Force. One of them retired and the other one is still in the Air Force, and they both serve in two different places. And one of them is a Trump supporter and the other one is not. So I kind of got two different
Oh, yeah.
of what and they of what that was like. So the one that's a Trump supporter said that if anything, she was really scared being in the military when Biden was in office because she said that she was constantly scared that she was going to get deployed for like war or something because she's like there was just so much going on. She's like that was kind of scary. She's like honestly I would be way more comfortable joining the military now because she's like I think she's like I truly feel that with Trump there's not gonna be any crazy wars or like signs of that. So and then she said the reason she got out is because she had gotten married and she wanted to have a family. So she's like, I got
Uh-huh.
out for that reason. But both of them, the other one is single and doesn't have kids. This one's married, now has kids, and that's why she's retired. Both of them were like, we both have friends that were single moms or had children or were married and had kids and they joined and said that it was the best experience that they've ever had because
Wow.
it provided for their kids.
Oh,
And for those that were married, it provided more financial help for their families. So they were like, either way, it's like a win-win for you. But then I was like, do you know anything about like citizenship or residency?
yeah,
Join the military? Because I'm like, I've also heard that there's people that serve that never get anything and end up getting deported. Like I remember there was a time where there was like a group of veterans that had served and everything and were deported. So I'm like, I don't want to be one of those veterans, you know? I don't want to
yeah,
serve.
yeah.
I don't want to like be so American that I am now serving my country and I'm in uniform and I've become a,
Right.
and then I find out that there's nothing they can do for me. The one in the army told me that she didn't know specifically of anyone that was in that situation, but she said she could find out for me. The one that was in the Air Force told me that while she was in boot camp, she knew of some girls that didn't have any type of residency. And she's like, they did some separate things. Like, she's like, I think they had to take some courses or something out like during boot camp, but that they took them away for. And she's like, but they even had like a whole little ceremony for them at the boot camp graduation for getting their, I don't know if it was their green card or their citizenship, but like they got
Oh,
something during
yeah.
boot camp. And she's like, so maybe, and I'm like, can you find out what exactly they got? Because I'm like,
Right. Yeah. I
kind of
want to
leaning
make sure.
the Air Force, you know? Like, I want
Yeah.
to be sure that if I do this, like, it would work out. And the other, like, there's like obviously pros and cons for me as a mom, as a wife. Like, I'd have to leave. I think if it was in the army, I'd have to leave for like 13 weeks or 14 weeks.
Okay.
No, it was 10 weeks, sorry. 10 weeks in the army, completely away from everybody. Like, you don't talk to anyone. I think there's like one day for an hour, maybe a
Okay.
weekend where you get to talk to your family.
Wow.
So I'm like, that would mean I would not be able to talk to anybody
Yeah.
for several days. And like for me, like the physical part of it, I'm like, it's gonna be hard, whatever. It is what it is. My body will get used to it. Like showering with a bunch of women might be kind of weird,
Yeah.
but it'll um
You're like, I'm
I'll,
ready. Sign me up.
I might cry, but it's okay. Like, but my
Yeah.
I don't what am I gonna do? Like my husband's gonna have to solely take care of the kids and the house and everything if I'm not here. And my dad might have to step in and help a little bit, like so that he doesn't have the load completely by himself. And my dad has such a set schedule. Like, what is he going to do? And I'm like, my mom doesn't really, she has like her own life and she doesn't like, she's not very, very involved. Like, she has a business and everything. She's very busy and she travels. So I'm like, she's not here very often to help.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm like, if I do, to my friend that was in the Air Force told me that I think boot camp was 6 or 7 weeks total. So she's like, it is a lot less than the army.
Yeah.
Um, but she's like, as a woman, I feel great. And like, obviously they're
Yeah.
both not dreamers. So I don't know any dreamers that have joined the military,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like, I really thought about that. And I'm like, it's still on the back burner. It's not like 100% my plan A. Like, this is what I'm
Yeah.
going to, but
But
it's
isn't
still,
that crazy that you need to be already like thinking of different scenarios that what you can do?
I don't know because I know we met through TikTok, but I don't know how much you spend time on TikTok. But I've seen people that are either paralegals or are like lawyers that are telling dreamers like you need to get what is it called? I don't know why the name just like escaped like that like document that you fill out for like who chooses what happens to your stuff or like your kids or like
Oh,
power of attorney. They're like, you need to figure out power of attorney. You need to fill out these documents. You need to have a will in place. You need to like all these like things in case you get deported. I'm like,
that's just
there was a one
so.
that I have a meeting with a lawyer for power of attorney. I have a meeting with an immigration lawyer for this. And she's like, I've already talked to certain family members about who would take my child if I got deported. I've talked to my child's school and told them like this is going on. If something happens or you don't hear from me, this is potentially what happened. You need to reach out to this person and let them know that they need to like. And I'm like, that made my heart sink because I'm like,
Right.
hate that. I hate that people have to think
Yes.
like that, but I know that that happens. Like it happens where ICE shows up to someone's house, arrest them, take them, and then kids come home from school and their parents are gone and they have no clue what to do. They're by themselves, you know? Like that's
I
even a really crappy situation to put kids in. Like,
literally. Yeah.
well, I don't know why you're taking people's parents in the middle of the day when they're at school and like I'm sure the parents said something. I am sure that the parents were like, my kids are in school. Like,
Yes.
like, I would say that. I'd be like, can
Yeah.
you up? Can I call
Right.
like, can you, like, like that's so scary, the unknown of how all of that could work out. It's really,
Yeah.
really scary. Um, but I don't like the way that we have to plan now this year
Yeah.
is just like, and you know what? I'm really hoping for the best and that we did all this planning and nothing happens, you know?
Yes. Literally. Yes.
But
Yes.
it's scary. And I don't think people realize that. I remember living in fear for 4 years the last time, especially finding out that he was going to judges in Texas and he was trying to make it illegal. And I remember just sitting there twiddling my thumbs, like, what's going to happen? And this
Yeah.
year, I'm
I
like,
feel like when that happened, I wasn't as scared because I was just like, no, like he's not gonna be able to do it. They're gonna deny him. It's not gonna happen. And my mom was calling me, and she was like, "Are you watching the news? Like what are you gonna do if like you can't renew it?" And I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. They're not gonna let him, do it." I feel like this time around, I'm a little more scared because of everything that he's saying.
the
I feel
only
like
thing
this
that
time
he
around.
managed to do was just make it so that there wasn't any more of us, like there's no new applicants, which when that happened, I'm like, okay, that's not exactly what he wanted, but it's a win. It's a win for him.
Yes, true,
The
true,
win
true.
for him and
Yeah,
everybody else that wanted this. So I'm like, that's not, it was just nerve wracking for me, like the unknown. Is I'm like, you don't know what judge is going to say yes or what judge is going to say no, or like you just never know what's going to happen. And I think this year, like, because I don't know why this time he's so big on immigration. Like, I feel like last time he spoke on it, he said some kind of
yeah,
racist thing, and like that was the end of that. And this time it's like, now I have a plan, and the
yeah. That was like his big
charge of
thing,
everything has a plan, and I'm just like,
right? And like
that's
all the people that he's
like
appointing,
the what?
all the people that he's like appointing to his cabinet, like what do they call him? The immigration czar, like the guy.
Yeah, he's the one that's talking about not having. Well, I mean, Trump spoke on that in his interview. He's the one that originally said, like, well, people are talking about family separation. We're not going to do that. The whole family can leave.
Yeah,
So
it was so scary
I'm
when he said that.
talking to my husband about that, and I'm like, we need to have a plan. And
Right?
he's like,
Yeah.
he's kind of like, it's fine. And I'm like, no. He's like, well, the good thing is we're married. And I'm like, that literally does nothing for me. Like, you think that that does something? It doesn't. I'm like,
Stay
just because
optimistic,
hey,
babe.
you're white doesn't mean that they're going to be like, oh, sorry, sir, your wife can stay. No,
Right?
husband. And he was, what do you want to do? So I started talking to him like, they're talking about deporting entire families. And he was big on like, okay, so we moved to Mexico. So he's not against
He's
like,
like vacation.
you family over there. Like, we'll be good. Like, we'll
Yeah.
build a house over there. Like, my money will,
Oh,
it'll be better
I
over
love
there.
his optimism.
Right. So he's kind of like thinking as a man, like, I can build a house. Like, we'll be okay.
We'll be fine.
Just like, do you understand what it means to move to Mexico? Like,
It's
do you
like,
understand that? Like, it's not like the United States. Like,
yes,
I
yes,
actually just talked to him about it yesterday, and I was like, dude, there's dirt roads. Like, it's not pavements like over here. It's not nice highways. And he's like, that's my kind of life, man. Like, I'm so dirt roads. Sign me up.
he's like,
Like,
let's go now.
big civilizations, sign me
Yeah,
up. And he's like, Morelia's beautiful. And I'm like, no, it is. And I'm like, but the towns surrounding the major city are small. Dirt
yes,
roads, cracked roads, like pavers, like it's like old timey kind of stuff. And I'm like, not to mention the culture shock for you. I'm like, you don't speak Spanish.
yeah,
And he's like, well, I'll learn. And I'm like, you're gonna have to. And I was like, what about, our oldest? I'm like, what happens to him? And he's like, well, he would go with us. And I'm like, obviously, but what if he says he doesn't want to? I'm like, he's
oh,
almost
right.
11. So I'm like, he's not a young kid. He's almost 11. He has um, six cousins that he sees regularly. He's very close to one of them. And I'm like, what happens if he realizes he's never going to see them again? Or
Yeah,
may not be able to. And the other thing is, my husband is really scared of flying. So I'm like, you're not going to fly as often as you think going to
right,
the
right,
airport to
yeah.
visit. And he's like, well, we can send him. And I'm like, yeah, but you're not going to want him to be on a plane by himself because you're so mortified of flying. So you're going to have
Like
to
you
fly.
gotta start thinking of all the little details.
Yeah. And I'm like, you need to think about that. And he's like, well, he's still like, it's fine. Like, it's fine. Like,
Precious.
he might have some concerns and reservations about it, but he's like, it's fine. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, I'll send, like, the dollar's worth more there. I'm like, this is all true. But then I told him about how the Mexican president was talking about deporting Americans. And he's like, what does that mean? And I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know what that means. Like, I think she did it in hopes that he won't do what he's saying he's going to do.
Right.
Or if he does, she's like, okay, cool. Well, here's your people back. Give me mine. I'll give you yours.
Yeah.
Guys,
How it
right?
is. Yeah.
Like, but I I don't know what that means for you because you're American. And he's like, you mean like I won't be allowed? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I literally don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
Yeah.
what's going to end up happening. And if that's what happens, what are we going to do?
What are we gonna do? Yeah. Yeah.
It's,
Ugh,
I was
just
like you,
everything's just up in the air.
no. And I'm like, neither one of us want to have to go away from our child. And I'm like, but
No.
if that's what it comes down to, our son is either going to have to fully live in Mexico and visit you, or fully visit in the States and visit me. And that's not fair for either one of us. And he's like, no, it's not. And I'm like, what are we going to do? Then I thought plan C could be we just move to an entirely different country. Like, what do we go to
Oh
Europe?
my God.
Oh,
Yeah.
like, live in
Oh, have
Spain.
you seen that? Have you seen that? How like it was big, like right at the beginning when he started talking all this craziness. A lot of people are self-deporting
Mhm. And
to
a lot
other
of people,
countries.
I mean, I thought about doing that. I told him, like, because that's when I say when we're going to move, I told him I would rather move willingly than be deported. Like, I was like, if we make the decision to move, then I want to plan the move, pack up our stuff, like, move on our own terms. I don't want to be deported. I don't want to get arrested. I don't
Right.
want to be at a detention center. I don't want any of that. Like,
Yes.
if
True.
like stuff is really getting bad, I'd rather just say, you know what? I'm gonna move. And my dad
Yeah.
even, if you decided, like, he's like, if you got deported or you decided to leave on your own terms, he was like, I would move too. Like, I would, like, he's like, because I would want to be there to support you and like be there for you. So he's like, I have my green card, so like I can come visit, but he's like, but I don't want anything bad to happen to you, and I want you to feel like you're
Mhm.
supported. And he's like, your uncles would take such good care of you. And I'm like, I know they take care of everybody. Like, I'd be okay. But
Yeah. Oh.
yeah, I like that's kind of like my plan B is no, well, I guess plan A is to hopefully nothing happens. Plan
Yeah.
B is to self deport, I guess, or just I'm calling it moving. I
Yeah.
just move. And then plan C, I'm like, if you can't go there and I can't come here or whatever, we're just gonna have to move to a completely different country and start over somewhere else where we're all allowed to be together and there's
Right. True.
this is crazy. And I'm leaning towards Europe. I'm like, I feel
Right.
like
Yeah. You're like, might as well.
yeah, and I actually do have an uncle that lives in Holland. He's
Oh,
Mexican,
nice.
someone from Holland, a Dutch woman, and he's been living there his entire life. So I'm like, I mean, we have somewhere to kind of go, or at
Yeah.
least help us, like maybe not move in, but like help us get our feet on
And
the
you're like, if Trump's covering the plane ticket, send me over.
ground, you know.
Why not?
I was like, I'm in Spain, so I'm like, I also have connections in Spain, so
Oh,
I'm like,
nice.
we'll be okay. So I'm like,
Yeah.
it sucks, but I'm trying to see the brighter side. I'm like, if this
Yes, for
happens,
sure. Because
hope
I feel like if you let all the negative stuff consume you, it's gonna be such a dark
it
place to be
no,
in.
because I got in that dark place. I was in a really dark place and I was really scared and I was like my hair was falling out and I was constantly like concerned
Yeah.
and worried and all of that.
Yeah,
So
there is a
I
lot of
don't know. I
fear.
guess I don't this year I'm just like it is yeah, there is. And I think it's okay to be scared. You know, it is a scary situation, but I think a lot of us just need to like maybe understand that this is not for us and it's okay.
Yeah.
And there's maybe better options for us. And this I think for me for a long time, I'm like, this is the best option, you know, like I'm an American, I deserve to be here. And now I'm just kind of like, I mean, I still feel that way,
Yeah.
but
Do you
if I'm not
feel like do you feel like a sense of belonging, even though
here,
like yeah. Do you feel like
yeah, I definitely still
yeah,
feel that way. I feel like I'm an American. Like, I mean, I barely have an accent. Like, no one,
right?
knows that I even speak Spanish. Like, I think some people might look at me and because I'm paler than most Hispanics, they're like, are you what? Like they're confused as to what I am. I was just
Yeah.
asked recently. I started a small balloon business and I started doing decorations for balloons on the side. And I was doing this for an event, and the husband walked up to me, and he knows my husband. And he was like, so he was telling me that your family's from Mexico. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, are you like full blooded Mexican? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like my mom is
Yeah.
Mexican, my dad is Mexican, all my
Yeah.
grandparents, uncles, like lineage, all of those, they're still in Mexico. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, because he's like, forgive me for saying this, but I thought Latino people were darker. And I was like,
Oh my God, no. There
they are.
is some of the
I was like, it's
whitest, blue-eyed,
like we are all
a
shades
little
and
bit of
colors.
everything.
He's like,
Yeah,
really?
literally.
And I'm like, you'd be surprised how
Isn't it so
many
crazy?
Mexicans are like blonde with blue eyes. And he's like, really? And I'm like, yes. Like, if I showed you pictures of my cousins, I have some very pale cousins. I have some darker cousins. It also depends on where you live. Like, if you live
Yeah.
towards the beach, you're out in the sun more. If you live up north, you're in the city, you're probably like smog is a problem. You're not outside very often. And he was like, oh, I had no clue. How long have you been here? And I had like a very brief conversation with him about it. And he was like, I would have never known you were a full blooded Mexican. I was like, did you think I was half white or something? And he's like, yeah, kind of like your son. Because me and my
Yeah.
son complexion, but he's literally half white. Like his dad is blonde with blue eyes. And then there's me, like dark hair,
Yeah.
but he came out with pale skin, black hair, black eyebrows, and like the prettiest honey brown eyes. Um,
Oh.
so he's like, I don't even know what he looks like to people, but looks more like me in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh my God. See, like, hopefully this will, enlighten some people.
On what it's like. I hope
Yeah.
so. I hope
Yeah.
so. Because it's hard. It's like, and it's a difficult situation that we're all in. It's not one that we asked for. Like I've said 100 times, like we did not ask to be in this position. Um, but I think it's good that people know that we're in a difficult spot and
Yes.
there really is no way out for us. Like we're just kind of in this
Kind of
limbo.
limbo.
What do we do? What's going to happen to us? And it kind of feels like a lot of people are kind of choosing our fate. Like we don't have the choice of what happens to us, you know? Like, I mean, well, you can if you choose to self deport,
Right.
then obviously, but it's like you have to choose to potentially leave a country and never come back. And it's the only country
Right.
you've known your
Yes.
entire life, you know?
Yeah. It feels like you're just starting over
Yeah,
again. Yeah.
you are. You are. And
Yes.
it's probably going to be hard, but I don't know. I hope the best for everybody that's in this. But
Yes.
for Dreamers, I hope he has a change of heart. I hope he realizes our situation and just does something, you know? Like you said
Yeah.
earlier, like we don't need citizenship, just give us a green card, like something that allows us to be here. Like we will do
Yeah.
things the right way if you just open some
Yes.
please
Just set
be
a
that.
pathway. Yeah.
Please be the president that does that. Like Obama did
Yes.
DACA.
Right.
Clearly that wasn't the best solution. It helped a lot of us. You know, I'm not
Yeah.
going to clearly given like what's gone on, maybe it wasn't the best solution because we're all kind of here with certain permissions, but not a lot of freedom, you know? So I'm
Yeah.
like, please be the president that does something for Dreamers. Like, we
Yes.
would all respect you so much and be so
Literally. Yes.
like, I would wear the red hat. I would have if he did something for Dreamers.
Oh my God. Yes.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
please, that's all I ask. That would mean the world.
So coming to an end, talking on that, what are your hopes on making like an immigration policy? What would be like the best case scenario? If Trump, comes into office January, he gets inaugurated January 6th,
Hmm.
his first 100 days in office.
If he formed some sort of pathway to just residency for
Yes.
Dreamers, that would be incredible. If he decided to say, okay, I'm going to allow everyone who has DACA, everyone who is in the situation and is considered a dreamer, I'm going to allow them to apply for red. Like if he just allowed us to self-petition, that would be amazing. If we
Oh,
could
yes.
self-petition for ourselves, given that we are
Yes.
actual DACA holders, like all of us in
Yes.
a heart would be like, yes,
Right? Yes.
everyone would hop on their
Literally.
and go fill out the
USCIS, hire people because you're going to be
right.
getting us. Oh,
We're
yeah.
gonna be flooded with thousands
Yeah.
of applicants from DACA holders.
Yes.
Promised us that we could do like I don't. I would hope it would be a fast process because we've been here for so long and because
Yes.
they have all of our information. Like we've already
Right.
told them how we got here. They already
Yeah.
know when we're here. They already know where we've lived. They already know. They have our fingerprints. You know what I mean? Like they
Yes.
already
Yes.
know everything about us. I feel
Because
like if
what
he would,
else do you need?
right,
Blood?
like have everything. Like from you,
Right?
I would love to be able to self petition.
Yes,
Um,
that would be amazing.
yeah, so that I can apply for my green card and I can be free of this mess. Like that would mean that would save my family, especially my family
Yes.
specifically. There's a lot of everyone's different, but my family specifically because I'm married to an American and we have an older son and we have a younger son that belongs to both of us. Like my situation is so scary because I'm
Yeah.
like I don't know where we'll be allowed. Where you're
Yeah.
group deportations, but even if you deport all of us, like the Mexican president may not allow my husband in the country. And I know that's
True.
not an America problem, that's a Mexico problem, but I'm like,
Yeah.
where do kids like me? Because I'm pretty sure
True.
a lot of members are with Americans. You know what I mean? Like I'm not
Yeah.
saying all, but a lot of us probably are.
Yeah. Yeah, for
A lot
sure.
of us have kids now. That's the other thing. A lot of us are parents
Yes.
and we have
Yes.
responsibilities now and we have little kids to look after that are our heart and soul and like we don't want to be separated from them, you know?
Yes.
I think for me that would be man. If he would listen to this, or if I could
Yes.
just say that to him, like please,
Yes.
like
Please.
do that. Like let us self petition where we don't need all these other little things in order to do this, and we can apply for a green card. That would be
I had
amazing, and
never thought about that.
that would be listen
Yeah.
because I
Dream
know
come
self
true.
petitions are an option for certain people in certain situations. You know what I mean? Because like there's
Yeah.
ways that you can try to get a green card, and I know that self petitioning is an option for some people that are like in domestic relation or abusive relationships. Like I've read that that's an option for some people, but like not everyone's in that situation, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like,
Uh-huh.
um,
But
if
that would
it
be like a smart way to do it. That I feel like that would be a great way to go about it since, like you
yeah,
said, they already have all our information. They already have it all.
yeah.
And
I mean, the thing
everybody
is
is going
like,
to be renewing.
yeah, and the thing with immigration is like you need someone to help you. Like when you apply, you can't petition for yourself. So like if he made
True.
it so that we could do that, we
Yeah.
don't need a spouse, we don't need a sibling, we don't need um
Yes.
child, we don't need a parent. Like if we could just because you know all this information about us and we've been here for X amount of years and we've had DACA for
Yes.
this long and we're just
Yeah.
allowed to send this in and you grant us all green cards, like I
Wow.
said, I would
That
wear
would,
that red.
yeah. You're like,
I would wear it. I would be
add
so
to cart.
at the cart immediately. Immediately.
You're like,
Hashtag
yes.
mom.
Right? Oh my God. That is
I'm just saying.
hilarious.
If he did that, I would 100% be more supportive of him and be like, and that's like, I don't even want to say like I have so many issues with him other than the immigration stance because that
Yeah.
affects me directly. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sit here and say all his ideas are bad or he's not like, you know what I mean? I'm just like,
Yeah.
this just affects me
For
directly.
sure.
And
For
I
sure.
would love your help for kids like me that
Yeah.
are basically Americans. I think we're just as
Yeah.
American as anybody else. We've done all the same things. We pay our taxes. Like we can prove it. We can show
Mm-hmm.
you.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like we
They have
money we
everything.
have to. Like when we apply, they want to know how much money you have. You know
Yes.
all of
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah, they do. Yeah.
they
They
know
totally
everything.
do.
So
Yeah.
like please help
Yeah.
us
Do you
out.
have any savings? Do you have a 401k? Yeah, they want to know everything. Yeah. Nothing's a mystery. Like they know us.
They know more about us than we probably
Literally.
than our friends and family
Yeah.
know about us. Like I don't tell my friends how much is in my bank account, but they know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
they know a
So,
lot. So
so true.
it would be amazing if he could do something like that, where it would just a pathway to a green card.
Yes.
Path citizenship would be amazing, but if that's
Yes.
not possible, a pathway to a green card where we can just breathe and be able to be here and potentially visit our hometowns. Like none of us
Oh my God.
been
Have
able
you
to.
thought about that? Have you thought about doing advanced parole?
Well, I heard that he's getting rid of it.
Of
Um,
course, of course.
so I heard that he's getting rid of it, and I had the opportunity to do it, but there's so many like protocols or like logistics that go
Yes.
into why
Yeah.
you're allowed to leave and for how
Oh,
long.
yeah.
And there was a point in time where like my grandma she has help, but she was really going through, she had a back surgery and she just like needed help. So I was going to use that as an excuse. And then I think you could visit a tomb site or like a grave site.
Yeah.
And my grandfather passed away in 2012, but that was so long ago, and I was very close
Yeah.
to him. So I'm like, I was never able to see him again. I wasn't able to go to the funeral when he died. Um, I thought maybe that was a thing, but there was like so much, like you had to translate documents and like all this other stuff, and like you needed to prove that you were related. Like I had to like get my birth certificate, my dad's birth certificate, and then my grandma's birth certificate, and then translate all of those documents into Spanish. So then I'm like, that's just a lot. That's just a lot. And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
fear of like, and I know a lot of people did it, and I'm really happy for them, but I think I was just
Yeah.
too scared to do it. Um,
Yeah.
because when we talked to a lawyer a long time ago, they told me that like my entry was legal, so I wasn't gonna have to leave and come back. So because of that, I'm like,
Oh,
I don't need the legal
yeah.
entry because I did it legally when I was 2, or my parents made sure that it was legal when I did it. So they were
Yeah.
like, you're not gonna have to leave the country or do any of that. So again, my
Okay.
situation is kind of great.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
of ability that I have, like the way
For
that
sure.
like it takes so long for me to do it. That's a problem for me specifically. So, yeah, advanced parole was a little bit scary for me, but I would love the opportunity to be able to go to where I was born and see
Okay.
all the things that I haven't been able to see all these years. You know, like Morelia is beautiful. Like when my dad is gone, he has sent me pictures of the cathedral. He went one
Yeah.
time and the cathedral looks amazing, and they light it up and there's like Mexican flags everywhere, and it's just
Yeah.
food is amazing, and I'm like, God, I would love to experience that, and I can't right now.
Right.
So
Yeah. I see that
I would,
too. Like when my mom goes, and I'm just like, oh my God, like to be back there, like you said, like you remember little snippets of like seeing like your grandma's kitchen or like little pictures come into your mind, but like being back there
yeah, it would
and
mean
like
the world to
seeing
me to
it.
be able to go back there and visit and just try all the good food. And like, I mean, my dad can bring me back pieces of bread, but like it's not the same.
Yeah, but right, yes,
Like
yeah, to be
got him at
walking
the
down those
bakery.
streets.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
tacos late at night, the like
right.
I
The
I would
traditions.
the traditions, the festivals, the culture,
Yeah,
the people, the
yeah,
food. Like I would love to see that and experience that myself in person than through
right.
all, because that's all I've
Yeah,
been able to do as of late is just see it in videos and pictures. And
yeah.
so,
It's amazing. Okay. Okay. What would be, last question, what would be your hope for people to understand about DACA and dreamers? What would be like your one thing that you would hope that they can get out of this?
I hope that they see that we're real people. Like we're not just statistics,
Yeah.
or the rumors that people say about us on the news. Like I hope that they can, and I'm sure there's going to be people that see podcasts about us and they're like, I don't care. But I'm sure there's
Yeah.
other people that are more open minded that would
Yes.
listen to us. Or maybe, for example, like maybe if I shared this when you post it, um, people that know me can take the time to listen to it. Like people that I've been friends with, or I went to school with, or I've worked with, or I know through my husband would take the time to listen to it and be like, oh, I didn't realize. So my hope is that like with every person that does something like this where they tell their story, that people that know them directly get to hear it and really realize that these are real people that are
Yes.
parents or kids or like someone's sister or brother or someone's wife or husband that is
Yes.
dealing with this, and it really is just such a difficult situation for us because like I said numerous times in this conversation, like we did not choose
Yeah.
this. for
Yes.
ourselves. We are
Mm-hmm.
literally, we were babies. We were little
Yeah.
kids, we were brought here, and now we're stuck in this really crappy situation where we want to do the right thing. We would
Yeah.
absolutely do the right thing. We've
Love it.
done,
Yes.
when this door was open to us, we
Oh my
ran.
God. Yes.
We were like,
Yes.
oh my God, yes, like we can work,
Yes.
we can have a drive. And like that seems so
Right.
insignificant, like a driver's license, work, like you did
Right.
all that so you could work at Subway? Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh my God.
I did that so I
Just
could
the
have,
feeling of like seeing those letters. Oh, your DACA has been approved. Like,
yeah,
oh my God. It literally.
like the deepest breath. Like even this time when my thing expired and it was a couple months where I didn't have it, the deep breath that I took when I saw that, like it just felt like such a weight was lifted off my shoulders. And I wish that people would understand that the weight that's on our shoulders for something that we did not ask for. And
Yes.
the only thing we are asking for is an opportunity to do something that we can actually do, because we would do it the right way.
Yes.
If he
Yeah.
allowed self-petition or he did something for us to get a green card, all of
Yes.
us would jump
Yeah.
through to do it.
For sure.
We will
For
go through
sure.
the that you want us to jump through. Just make it available to us because
Yeah.
right now, it's
Yeah.
not. Waiting for our kids to turn 21 is not a fast fix. All of us
Yeah.
have to marry US
Yeah.
citizens when some of us
Right.
don't want to, or like whatever, like
Yeah. Yeah.
having
Like
to
some of us, I feel like we want to
marry a
earn
citizen,
it.
like
Yeah.
you don't want to live like that. You want to marry
Yeah.
out of love. I'm assuming
Yes.
want to
Yes.
marry, they love them and they
For sure.
should. So we
Yeah.
don't give us something that's available to us
Yes.
specifically, and we
Yes.
will do it the right way, so
Yeah.
like I want people to see that we're human, see that we're real people, we're parents, we're siblings, we're like wives, we're spouses, like
Yes.
we're real people that have been here, we're doing things the right way, we're not
Yes.
criminals,
No.
and we will do what we need to do to stay here and
Yes.
be as American as you are, because I think that we are,
We
so
are. We are.
I
Yes.
I would love that. I would love for that to come from this. I would love for people to see that when they hear our stories and hopefully get a better understanding of what it actually means to be a dreamer, because it really feels like we're just dreaming for something that seems so unreachable. Like
Right.
it really does feel that way. Like it's all a dream. And we're all
Yeah.
okay and with ice
Uh,
out, we're like, oh, when is next,
no.
but we
Yes.
are dreaming.
Yes.
It seems like it's impossible. And it would
Yes.
be amazing if Trump would be the president to do something. It would be amazing. And I would
It
love
would
that.
be. Yes.
You would be the biggest hype. Like we would hype you up, sir. If
Oh my God. Literally, it's like, sir.
you'd have all
Oh,
the votes for sure. Like just
right. Yes.
help us.
Yes. Yes. Uh,
But yeah,
it's very simple. It's very simple what we ask.
yeah,
So
we're not asking for a lot. We're not
no.
asking for
No.
a out. We're not asking like I don't want government aid. I don't want food stamps.
No.
I don't want
No.
Medicaid. I'm fine with I've been fine without
Yes.
medical insurance my entire life. I'll be fine for 20 more years. Just
Literally. Yeah.
like give me the ability to be here comfortably and not worry about ICE knocking on my door or getting a
Yeah.
letter saying that I need to leave.
Yeah.
Like
This
give
2 year
me that.
thing. It's yeah. Yeah. Give us something a little more, something we can hold on to that's a little bit longer than 2 years.
Yeah, we need something better than the 2 year thing.
Yes. Okay, girl. Thank you so, so much for coming on. I'm so excited. Your story was amazing.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you again, girly. You're amazing. You're such an inspiration.
You are too. Thank you. You are
So
too. I
nice
hope this
meeting
podcast
you.
takes off.
Oh my God,
It was nice
yes.
to meet you.
And I will talk to you soon. Thank you again and have a great
Thank
day. Thank
you.
you. Bye.
Thank you.